I'm Adam Gamarin. I'm the president of the William T. Grant Foundation in New York City. The mission of our foundation is to support research to improve the lives of young people. Right now, we have two main focuses. One is on reducing inequality among young people, and the second is on improving the way evidence from research is used in policy decisions that affect young people. Now, why the focus on reducing inequality? As former President Obama has stated, inequality is the defining challenge of our time. Inequality in the United States has increased dramatically over the last several decades. Today, 22% of American children grow up in poverty. The figure is over 40% for African American children. And this has substantial consequences on their lives. Not only has the degree of inequality increased, but the effects of inequality in this generation on the outcomes of the next generation have been magnified over time. Now, existing research has told us much about where inequality comes from, how it works, and what its terrible consequences are. What we need is research on ways to reduce inequality. Now, it turns out that finding answers to this important question is not enough, because we also need to see that evidence from research is used when it comes to making new policies and developing new programs and implementing new practices. You know, there are some who have the idea that the reason research isn't used is because it's not believable, it's not strong enough. And if we could only improve the quality of research, then surely it would be used more effectively. Well, it turns out that doesn't do the whole story. We have plenty of examples of bad evidence being used and good evidence being ignored. It turns out that the use of research is more about the relationships between producers and consumers of evidence and the intermediaries who bring them together than it is about the quality of the evidence. So, for example, how can we create conditions where research is used? This might involve an intervention to infuse social service agencies, whether it's schools or child welfare agencies or courts, infuse them with evidence and find ways to test whether evidence then goes into the decision process. Or it might find new ways to incentivize researchers to work on problems whose answers really matter to decision makers, to set up structures to support those incentives. For example, research practice partnerships, where researchers and practitioners work together to co-construct their research agendas and to build the capacity of the decision makers to use evidence from research. And we want to incentivize institutions such as universities to value the kind of evidence that's available to support decision making. A colleague and I recently wrote a paper arguing that rigor and relevance in research are not in opposition to one another, but rather they're mutually supportive. Indeed, one could argue that research is only relevant if it is also rigorous, and we need to find ways to incentivize researchers to undertake such challenges and to convince their institutions to value work that has a goal of improving the lives of young people.